You know, usually when we analyze a major technological shift, there's this expectation of a long, predictable runway.
Right, like a slow rollout.
Exactly. Think about the rollout of electricity. You build the power plant, string the wires pole by pole, and just watch the grid slowly march across the map over decades. It's sequential.
Hmm.
But when you look at generative AI, that map isn't filling in pole by pole. The entire map is just instantly glowing everywhere all at once.
And welcome to today's deep dive, where we are jumping into one of the most rigorous documents in the tech world, which is the newly released 400-plus page Stanford AI Index 2026 report.
It is a massive document.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission today is to decode what this huge report actually means for you, like for your daily life, your career, your future. We want to move past the cold data and find those real-world aha moments.
Because the data alone can be, honestly, a bit overwhelming.
Totally. So, okay, let's unpack this. The core premise here is wild. In just 3 years since the mass launch of ChatGPT, generative AI has reached a staggering 53% adoption rate across the global population. Yeah, what's fascinating here is how that completely shatters the historical models we usually use to track how human beings integrate new tools.
Right.
I mean, if you think about the telephone, that took half a century to reach that level of ubiquity. Even personal computers required a couple of decades of hardware scaling.
Which makes sense. You have to physically build all of that.
Exactly. And even the internet, which is our modern baseline for rapid deployment, that took well over 10 years to reach a similar global penetration rate.
10 years versus 3 years, that's just crazy.
It is. Achieving 53% in 36 months tells us we are no longer analyzing projections or early adopter phases. We're looking at a mature, globally integrated infrastructure.
Okay, so establishing how fast it's spreading naturally leads to the next big question, which is where is it spreading most effectively? Because the geographic data in this report completely shatters our preconceived notions of global tech dominance.
It really does.
Yeah.
Historically, digital adoption correlates super strongly with a country's GDP per capita.
Right. Wealthy countries get the new tech first.
Usually, yes. Wealthier nations have the broadband infrastructure, the capital, so they naturally adopt digital tools faster. But the 2026 data presents these massive structural outliers.
Yeah, let's talk about those outliers because this blew my mind.
So Singapore is currently leading the entire globe with a 61% adoption rate. And they're closely followed by the United Arab Emirates, hovering right around 54 to 64%.
Okay, but then there's the U.S. I was genuinely shocked by this ranking.
Yeah, it's a surprising contrast.
The United States, the actual birthplace of these frontier models, the home of all the hyperscalers, is sitting way down at 24th place, with only a 28.3% adoption rate. It's like inventing the automobile but insisting on riding horses while the rest of the world builds highways. Why is the birthplace of these tools lagging so far behind smaller nations?
Well, it's basically the macroeconomic version of technical debt.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So the U.S. has this vast, deeply entrenched enterprise software ecosystem. When your entire economy runs on legacy tech stacks that you've built over the last 20 years, ripping all those foundational layers out to implement native AI architectures involves just massive operational friction.
Ah, so they're stuck in their old ways, basically.
Exactly. Conversely, nations like Singapore and the UAE operate almost like agile corporations.
Right.
They utilize centralized digital identity systems and sovereign compute clusters. This allows them to mandate top-down integration across their state-affiliated enterprises and public services. And they do it without all that legacy friction.
So they just skip the messy transition phase entirely.
Pretty much. And for you listening, I think it's important to consider how your own country's infrastructure and just general openness to innovation might be dictating your personal access to the future.
Yeah, that's a huge point. Are you in a place that's defending an old legacy skyscraper or building a new smart city from scratch? So, having mapped out that global spread, let's zoom in from the macro country level to the micro daily routine level. Like, exactly where are citizens in these countries actually deploying these tools?
Right, at work and at school.
Yes, and the numbers are just massive. The report says 88% of organizations globally now use AI in at least one function.
Which is almost universal at this point.
It is. And in the U.S., 4 out of 5 college students use it regularly. But meanwhile, employees in emerging markets like India, China, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia are seeing over 80% regular usage at work.
Yeah, the disparity in how it's being used is really stark.
It is. I was reading this and I just pictured this hilarious scenario. Imagine a college professor using ChatGPT to grade a stack of essays that the students use ChatGPT to write.
Right, just machines talking to machines.
Exactly. It's an AI feedback loop. I mean, where is the human equilibrium in all of this?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to economic realities. We really have to move past the image of AI as just a novelty, like a student using it to cheat on an essay.
Right. It's way bigger than that.
It is. For U.S. consumers alone, AI generates an estimated $172 billion in value annually as of early 2026.
172 billion. That is a wild number.
It is, and the median value per user has actually tripled in just 1 year. It's not a toy. It's a massive productivity engine.
Tripling in a year. That implies a fundamental shift in what people are actually using it for, right?
Exactly. It's the difference between asking an AI to quickly format a polite email versus deploying an entire workflow to parse a massive financial spreadsheet and output a polished risk assessment. The human is basically outsourcing the tedious cognitive labor.
That makes total sense. And that realization that AI is generating billions in consumer value perfectly explains this next phenomenon we need to talk about.
The investment boom.
Yes, this unprecedented explosion in corporate investment to push the technology's boundaries, which, we should note, also demands a massive physical toll on the planet.
Yeah, those two things are deeply connected.
So the data here says global corporate AI investment hit $581.7 billion in 2025. That's a 130% increase.
Just an astronomical amount of capital.
Totally. And while the U.S. dominates the private investment side, the performance gap between the U.S. and China on frontier models has basically collapsed. It's down to a mere 2.7%.
The geopolitical race here is incredibly tight.
It really is. And the technical leaps are just as wild. Let's look at the SWE bench, which is a software engineering benchmark. It jumped from a 60% success rate to nearly 100% in a single year.
Right, models resolving complex real-world software issues almost perfectly.
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I mean, we have all this investment in these huge software leaps, but I have to pivot to the physical reality of this.
The infrastructure.
Right, because we always say it's in the cloud, but the cloud is actually just servers and buildings. So what is the hidden physical cost of this much computing power?
It's severe. The report highlights some very stark warnings about the environmental impact.
I can imagine.
Yeah, the training and inference of these models consume just enormous amounts of water and energy in data centers.
Because they run so hot, right?
Exactly. The thermal design power of these newer GPU clusters is so high that traditional air cooling doesn't work anymore. They rely on evaporative cooling towers, which require chilled water loops to absorb the heat.
Wow.
So as adoption scales, the localized strain on municipal power grids and freshwater reservoirs is becoming a huge issue, making the push for green AI a truly critical, urgent challenge for the industry.
It's literally a physical ceiling on the growth.
It is. If they can't figure out the energy and water problem, they literally won't have the resources to power the intelligence they're trying to build.
Man, that tension between rapid technical advancement and its physical limits is so interesting, and it actually perfectly mirrors another major tension in the report.
The human element.
Yes, exactly. The psychological and societal strain on humanity as we all try to keep up with this.
It's a very real strain.
It is. The data shows that despite rising global optimism about AI, nervousness is spiking hard. Like 64% of Americans expect fewer jobs because of AI.
Yeah, the anxiety is palpable.
And on top of that, there is a deep digital and geographic inequality in access. Plus, there's low transparency in AI models, which raises major concerns about bias, privacy, and, military use.
Right. All very valid concerns.
Absolutely. But then the report mentions that only a tiny fraction of schools and companies actually have clear AI policies in place. We are flying blind.
We're iterating the software much faster than our social contracts.
Completely. But wait, I want to point out a massive contradiction in the data here. So what does this all mean for the listener? Because on one hand, 64% of people fear job loss, specifically entry-level displacement. But the data also shows that organizations adopting AI intensively are actually growing employment by about 10%.
Right? It seems backwards.
It does. They are expanding, not shrinking. How do we reconcile this paradox?
Well, this raises an important question about the gap between public perception and expert reality.
Okay.
The fear of that 64% is grounded in a very real trend, which is that the fundamental nature of an entry-level role is changing. Rote tasks are definitely being automated.
Right. Basic data entry is gone.
Exactly. But that 10% employment growth, illustrates what economists call the Jevons paradox. When you make a resource, in this case cognitive labor, cheaper and more efficient, the demand for it actually increases.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so by equipping a junior employee with an AI assistant, you democratize capability. That company can suddenly execute complex projects at a fraction of the cost, so they take on more projects, enter more markets, and actually need to hire more humans to manage it all.
So they aren't replacing humans, they're just scaling up.
Exactly. AI democratizes capabilities, but it also amplifies inequalities if it's unmanaged.
Right.
The real crisis outlined in the report isn't a lack of jobs. It's a massive need for global reskilling and ethical governance. AI is here, it's mature. The lack of human preparation is the real bottleneck.
We're the bottleneck, not the tech.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so to summarize this incredible journey we've been on today, we went from a 53% global adoption in a record 3 years to looking at those surprising global leaders like Singapore and the UAE. We talked about the massive economic value being created, the scary environmental costs with water and power, and of course, the very real human anxieties and the need for reskilling.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot. But, for you listening, remember that you are part of the first half of the world to adopt this tech. That puts you in a highly unique position of responsibility.
It really does. And I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over. Building on that rapid speed of AI generating human-like output,
Oh, absolutely. Let's hear it.
we've spent this deep dive talking about humans adopting AI. But as AI generates more and more of the text, code, and ideas on the internet, future AI models will inevitably start training on data created by other AIs.
Oh, man.
Yeah. As we race to get the other half of the human population online with AI, we have to ask ourselves a serious question. Are we preparing for a future where human thought is amplified, or a future where the internet becomes a closed loop of machines talking to machines?
Wow. Machines just training on machines. That is wild. Definitely something for everyone to think about. Thanks for exploring this with us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.